My name is JD Buckridge. I'm one of the organizers of 1 Million Cups Joplin, and we're very excited to have you here this morning. Our kickoff last week was amazing. And for those of you that were here, we are very grateful that you were able to attend with us and be a part of our community. And for those of you that have not signed up yet to present, there are a couple of QR codes at the registration table when you come in. If you just scan, there's one that says apply to present. You can scan that QR code and it's going to take you to the presentation gateway, and you can apply online via your smartphone to apply to present with us. And so we would love to have more presenters. The other thing is we would love to have you as a consistent attendee to our community. One of the things that makes 1 Million Cups vital is that the entrepreneur has an opportunity to speak to those in the audience about who they are, what they do, what their biggest challenges are, and then how you can help them. So we want you to help our entrepreneurs be more successful entrepreneurs. Hey, we all know that growing up in Southwest Missouri, being a part of the Joplin community is a really great place to work, live, and play. How many think that's a great thing, right? To work, live, and play here? It's amazing. And it continues to grow, and things continue to be enhanced. But guess what? The entrepreneurs, they need that from us. So that's what 1 Million Cups exists for. People always ask, the last couple weeks people said, well, so what is 1 Million Cups and where did that come from? Did the Joplin Chamber start it? Did you guys start it? The answer is no. It's actually the Kaufman Foundation out of Kansas City, Missouri, the Kansas City Royals. It's the Kaufman family. It's their philanthropic effort nationwide. Right now at 9 a.m. nationwide, every Wednesday morning, there are 1 million cups of coffee had all at the same time. Isn't that really cool? So you are a part of a 1 million cup community right now, having coffee, getting together to empower entrepreneurs for greater levels of success. And we think that's just an amazing thing. In addition to that, we are always looking for great people to be a part of the community and presenters, as I mentioned earlier. We want to thank some sponsors as well. We want to thank the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce for helping facilitate the efforts. And so there's a lot of legwork the last 2.5 years that has gone into making this happen. So Toby Teeter, the chamber president, our Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce president, has been working very diligently behind the scenes with the Kaufman Foundation to make sure that we can bring this to Joplin, Missouri. We're very, very grateful for Doug and for Aaron and then Alyssa and the entire team for being here this morning. Let's give our chamber staff a good hand for being here this morning. So we want to thank the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce as one of our presenting sponsors. Also, Southwest Missouri Bank. Southwest Missouri Bank has been a great friend to all things entrepreneurial in the greater Joplin area for great time. And so thank you so much, Peggy, and to Southwest Missouri Bank for being a part of 1 Million Cups today. Also, Grady Schaefer's Restaurant. Mike Wiggins is not able to be here this morning, but if you know Mike well, you know he has a passion for coffee. And so he has been just a blessing to provide the coffee to us every single week at no charge to 1 Million Cups. So if you get an opportunity to go by and thank Mike and have a cup of coffee, he's got a great local roastery right there in the restaurant. If you walk in, he's got a big science experiment happening when you walk in. Make sure to go and say thank you. We're very grateful to Mike and to Grady Schaefer. Also, you can see a few other sponsors on the board here, Joplin Public Library. We're very grateful to Gina and her team for assisting us with the organization and facilitation of 1 Million Cups. We had some questions about, hey, I had heard that this is going to be at the Joplin Public Library. Well, unfortunately, COVID did not allow us to do that. COVID was not friendly to many of us, obviously. And so the library is open. Isn't that right, Gina? So you can go into the library. You can go have a little workspace if you need it. You can check out all the materials. The library is open for business. So we're very grateful to Gina and her team as well for being sponsors. Also, the Missouri Technology Corporation for assisting us with being a part of just who we are and facilitating everything we're doing today. And here's the last piece as well. So Alyssa and Aaron have worked diligently to where we can broadcast via Facebook Live every single week. So we're very grateful for technology. Technology is a good thing. We learned that during COVID, didn't we? That without technology, many of us wouldn't have had jobs. So we're very grateful for the opportunity to have technology. Speaking of technology, next week, this meeting will be virtual. So we have not had one of those yet. I know we're only 2 weeks in, but there's been some questions about, will we be here every single week? Until further notice, we will be in this building, in this location, every single Wednesday morning from 9 a.m. until 10 a.m. with coffee and connections starting at 8:30. So please come early, stay late, but next week, Facebook Live, if you have not liked and followed us yet, go to Facebook and type in 1 Million Cups Joplin. 1 Million Cups Joplin. There's a lot of 1 Million Cups organizations. So make sure you type in 1 Million Cups Joplin. You will find us, like the page, and next Wednesday morning, you can log on and you can watch us via Facebook Live. Unfortunately, this room was already booked months in advance, and so to find a space that can facilitate enough people, that can social distance and be safe and responsible is a bit of a challenge. And so we're going to be operating via Facebook Live next week. Without further ado, I'm very excited to introduce our first presenter to you today. Many of you have gotten to know Dr. Joseph Shepard and a couple of his colleagues, Dr. Ernesto Matos and Dr. Sora Cayasta, often referred to affectionately as Dr. K. And so they have two clinics, one in the Joplin, Missouri area, one in Neosho, Missouri. And Dr. Shepard, I'm sure, will share some of his story, but it's a little unique how he became a physician. And so he actually was a journalism major when he began his career. And he said, you know what? There's some cool things that maybe some changes that can be made to provide affordable cost health care to everybody, and they can make their own choices. And he said, you know what? Maybe I'll go to med school. Maybe I will do that. And so he'll tell you some of that story today, but it's a 24/7 membership-based access clinic, which means you have 24/7 access to the physicians. He's going to share with that today. So please welcome from Neosho, Missouri, and now Joplin, Missouri, Dr. Joseph Shepard, and free market physician.
I think I'd have JD give the speech for me. He's got a lot of energy, and I think he tells it even better than I do. And am I on the microphone?
Let's see.
What about now? There we go. Okay. Well, thank you for having me out this morning. I'm Joseph Shepard from Free Market Physician Clinic, and I want to tell you a little bit about the story of the clinic, how we got started, what we are, and then ask you a couple questions and get your input on the clinic. So we'll go to the first slide. Or next slide.
Oh,
the clicker
is right up there.
Okay. Okay, so I am an Idaho farm boy. Grew up in southeast Idaho, moving irrigation pipe because it doesn't rain there, so you have to move sprinklers across the field to make it water. I went on a 2-year religious mission in South America after high school. And I came back and I went to college and I was a journalism major. And I thought I was going to write. I love to write. I'm a writer. And I was assigned to cover a story in college. In the state of Utah, they were about to make health insurance mandatory for all the university students. And so I was assigned to cover what was a snooze of a story at a time. This was before healthcare reform. And I learned a number of things while I was there. One of the things that I learned is that healthcare plus health insurance costs more than healthcare. And they were saying things like, well, if we get everybody on health insurance, the cost will go down. But as I was talking with industry experts, I was hearing that wasn't the case. And I had some bells going off in my head where I was saying, you know, why don't doctors just charge for their services instead of using health insurance? And I had some kind of neurons starting to fire in my head, making connection. I decided, well, what if I become a cash-only physician? And that kind of kicked off my decision to go to medical school. And so I did go to medical school. I came out to Missouri for medical school. We don't have one in Idaho, just potatoes. And I was developing this idea in medical school. How do you make primary care accessible and affordable for people? And I started writing a medical economics blog. And the blog name was Free Market Physician. And so I was developing these ideas throughout medical school. I went to residency in Springfield at Cox, and about that time there was a new medical clinic that opened up in Wichita called the Atlas Clinic. And what they'd done is they had taken the concierge model of medicine, where you go to high rollers, to high earners, and you say, oh, pay me $500 a month and I'll be your personal physician. I'll put on plush slippers on your feet when you walk in the room, we'll bring you a latte, and I'll treat you like $1 million. And so they took that model and they said, you know, what if we use that monthly membership model as the funding mechanism for primary care? You know, just cut the health insurance out of the process and make it so that people can just pay a monthly fee and have a doctor. And so they launched the Atlas Clinic, which was revolutionary. You may still hear them now. The founder, Josh Barry, you see him a lot on, Sean Hannity has him on a lot. He ends up on NPR a lot. He ends up on Fox News a lot. And here in the Midwest, anyway, they revolutionized healthcare. And so I went out and I spent a couple weeks at the Atlas Clinic, and I said, this is it. This is what we're going to do. And so we opened the Free Market Physician Clinic in Neosho 7 years ago. So what do? We are physicians who focus on patients and not on health insurance, okay? My feeling is you pay attention and you work for whoever pays you. So if I'm working in an insurance accepting clinic, I'm worried about getting my billing right, getting my coding right, documenting so that I can maximize my billing. And I'm taking care of this patient on the side here too, and I care about the patient, but if I don't take care of the health insurance company, I don't get paid. So what happens if we take them out of the equation? So our patients pay us instead. We're paid a $70 a month fee for adults, $30 a month for children, and we have unlimited office visits, there's no co-pays, and our patients have access to us on nights and weekends by phone, text, and email. We have guaranteed same day and guaranteed on-time appointments. We give a partial refund if we're more than 10 minutes late. And then, oh yeah, I already said that. Our patients have access to us nights and weekends, phone, text, and email. We have labs at wholesale cost and medications at wholesale cost. And the idea is that the predictable part of healthcare, the part that we know that we need, primary healthcare, you pay for it without using health insurance. Insurance is used to pay for unexpected expenses. Why would you use health insurance to pay for what you know you're going to have to pay for? We don't use health insurance to pay for our oil changes, for our gas. We use our health insurance, or we don't use our car insurance to pay for oil changes and gas. We use it to pay for accidents. You know, if you use that health insurance to pay for those other things, the cost of everything would go up, and the same is true in healthcare. So, how does it work? Patients or businesses use us to pay for primary care, and then they'll get some sort of appropriate coverage to pay for the unexpected, some sort of catastrophic or high deductible plan. And the idea is if you use us to pay for your primary care, you get something else to pay for the rest, you pay a whole lot less for the entire package. What do we do in the clinic? We're able to provide preventative care, general care, and urgent care. What we don't do is we don't provide emergency care, specialty care, or hospital care. What we're able to do in the clinic, because we're not catering to health insurance companies, we're able to provide superior customer service. The medical industry is one in which customer service is largely lost. You know, it's hard to find an industry that does worse at customer service than the medical industry, and we're trying to reverse that. We focus on the physician-patient relationship, on getting to know our patients and knowing them well. We know our patients, we know their kids' names, we know their grandkids' names, we know the name of their dog, and when they call us on a night or weekend saying they're having a problem, you better know that we know about their hypertension, their diabetes, their cholesterol issues, and we know what medicines they're on, and can answer your questions for them at 11 o'clock at night. So, I opened my clinic in 2014 in Neosho. I had a full panel by 2017, enough patients to keep me busy and funded. We added a second physician, that's Dr. Ernesto Matos in the middle, in 2018. And then we opened our Joplin clinic with Dr. K, who many of you may know, in 2019. We were really excited, oh boy, this is going to go like gangbusters. September 2019, and then COVID happened. Here is our patient enrollment and our growth. So we grew nicely, and then we have a couple blips. Here is COVID right here, and we kind of flattened out there. And we've had a little bit of growth since then. We've lost a couple of our bigger clients, but that's kind of what it's looked like for us as a business. So what's our biggest challenge as a business? Well, it's patient acquisition. And there's been some challenges that I didn't really anticipate as I thought to grow this business. In my mind, I was going to start a clinic, and then we could just start planning doctors and clinics in southwestern Missouri, and they would grow as well. What I didn't anticipate is I can be a doctor salesman. But there aren't a lot of doctor salesmen out there. You know, there are doctors who love their patients, but do they really want to get out and cold call and go to chamber of commerce events and do all these things? Those people are hard to find, even if they say they are. You know, a lot of them really struggle. I don't have time to market and sell all my new physicians. You know, we need to connect with small businesses, and when we're, especially outside of communities where I live, we've got a challenge. Even Joplin is a little bit of a challenge for me to come up and market up here. We have a rather narrow profit margin. Our goal is to make healthcare personally affordable to anybody that works. If you have a job, you can afford us. And so, yeah, we could really raise our prices, increase that profit margin, have money for advertising costs, but we don't really want to do that either, because if we do so, we kind of lose our purpose and our mission. So our current approach, which is a little bit new for us and seems to be working, we do a lot of network marketing. We've started partnering with local independent insurance agents. We're commissioning them to sell our product. You know, if they've got, you know, all these plans that they sell, you know, they're able to pull us out of the desk if they don't find a good fit for them and say, well, let's look at free market position clinic. Or in particular, we're working with independent agents to sell small businesses on appropriate insurance plans that couple with us. and save that client a lot of money. We've also started an in-house sales program. We've got Karen Tucker here with us today, who represents us and is selling to the community. And then, of course, we partner with JD, and he's done wonderful things for us in Joplin. And if you haven't had a chance to meet JD, he is the ultimate connector. So, how can you help me? You know, of course, if you have anyone that you recommend that we talk with, we would love that. The ideal client for us is a business with under 50 employees. If you have 50 full-time equivalents, you need to have health insurance for them. If you have a group that's less than that, a lot of times these businesses are looking for an affordable benefit to provide people, and those health insurance plans are just not affordable to them. And something like us would work out great. We're a meaningful benefit. We have a business discount over our other rates, and we can take care of their employees for them. We are looking for ways to better connect with small businesses. We're also looking on ways to develop an external sales force. We're hoping not to just do this in Joplin, but do it in other communities. And any other recommendations on patient acquisition as well. So that is what I'd like to put to the group and solicit the wisdom of this crowd here. Thoughts or questions?
Okay, we're going to go ahead and open up for questions. So if you have a question, let's go ahead and open up the forum for a question this time. I'll walk the microphone over to you. Start here. Go ahead.
So if someone has an unexpected emergency, heart issue, something like that, how do you handle that?
Yeah. So we teach all of our patients to have some sort of funding mechanism in place for that. So financially, we're trying to train them to be prepared, whether that be a high deductible plan or a healthcare ministry plan or as a business, a partially self-funded plan, whatever that is. And then we're like any other doctor. We can refer to either hospital system. We work with the specialist. We coordinate the care. We're probably more hands-on than other physicians are. We're rather possessive of our patients, and we try to be very good at coordinating the care. So does that answer your question? Okay, thank you.
Awesome. We have Joe Craig Mile with Mercy.
It's good to see Dr.
Hello.
Shepard. I actually come in, I bring physicians in to meet Dr. Shepard, and I want to attest to what a good group you guys have there.
Appreciate it.
Very comfortable feel going in, your new building especially, I really like that.
Oh, thank you.
It just seems to me one of your potential really good targets would be restaurants.
Okay.
Have you approached any restaurant, just because, you know, you could, I mean, for $70 a month, maybe the employer could split it with their employee $35 a piece or something, make it much more affordable, but most restaurants don't have health insurance, and that's definitely an industry that needs it, so.
That's a great recommendation. I don't think we have a single restaurant that's a client right now. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
To quickly build on that, actually, and this is one of my questions, is your plans to expand this, because I originally lived in Austin, actually, and on the restaurant note, the single biggest limiting factor for restaurant success in the city of Austin is finding and retaining workers. And there's already significant data that exists around health insurance being a strong retention mechanism for employees that enroll. And so not only can you provide them with that, like you can remove these bottlenecks of employee retention in cities like Austin.
Right. And that's, I agree with you 100%. We talk about retention, you know, yeah. The other big thing that we emphasize for employers is reduced time lost, because we guarantee the same day visits. You know, they're able to come in, be seen on time, leave the clinic often with a prescription in hand, and then we'll coordinate with the employers, you know, can they go back to work now, when can they go back, and there's a direct connection there. I like what you say, restaurants. That's a nut we haven't cracked yet.
Well, and I think it's important, because that's my background, was restaurants before I got into my current profession. But, you know, the other thing too is most larger insurances, like health insurance, won't cover restaurants because of the transient nature of the business, right? People come and go. One of the things that I see with the free market side is if it's in direct care, they can take it with them wherever they go.
Yes.
Because they're connected to that. So I think it's a win-win all the way around to be able to offer a benefit in that. Because if you're a large chain, you know, the profit margin there is very small, and they don't want to necessarily pay for it. So if you're living on your tips, most people are paycheck to paycheck in that side of things, or tips to tips. Like, healthcare is not necessarily the thing that they're going, hey, I'm gonna spend $200 a month on that. No, that's not the focus. But if they can have something as an option for you, I mean, that's great. I know JD knows quite a few of the restaurant owners in the area and stuff like that, can make connections and,
Yeah.
and probably have that conversation.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, how do you connect, and who are the right people in a restaurant to connect with?
The owner.
The owner,
The owner.
right?
So local places connect with the owner.
Yeah, you know, going to a chain.
Right, we're not gonna
most
go to
likely
McDonald's.
gonna-
Yeah.
That would be a little tougher nut to crack, but you know, local restaurateurs, and they're usually around, you
Uh-huh.
know, before lunch is typically a good time to go in and see them, or in that afternoon lull between, you know, 2 and 3, somewhere
Mhm.
around there.
I also think small business owners that have less than 3 employees, because until you get to that 3 employee group, there's really not a lot of discounted plans for small business owners.
Mhm.
And I don't know if that's partnering with, you know, the chamber and asking and say, hey, do you have a list of everybody that, you know, has 1 to 3 employees? Because that's how you register for your fees, right?
Right.
And so, and connecting with them and saying, hey, how do we get coffee? Or maybe we do a workshop with them or something like that, to be able to provide that value. Because there's a lot of, and I'm speaking from personal experience in my business, there's been a period of time where we didn't carry a major medical plan because the cost was more prohibitive
Right.
than to do something like a pre-market physician. If we would have known about that at that time,
We would have been a good fit.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So,
very good. Laurie?
And just hearing this, you know, one of the number one problems with, right now with most of our employers is retention and recruitment of those employees. And maybe even just looking at who's hiring right now
Uh-huh.
and calling them and saying, maybe I can help you offer a better plan to help, instead of you having to raise your hourly wage to, what did I see, Andy's up to
accommodate.
$20 an hour?
Right.
Maybe
Sure.
let me show you how, for a couple, you know, whatever that figures per hour for an employee, how you could offer this and really attract them to your business. So maybe looking at the help wanted ads to see who else hiring, which is a huge list right now.
That's a good
Would be
idea.
a great place to start, because every business that we have is higher, that's their problem, they're not getting people attracting them, and so maybe that's the point that could tip the balance and make them competitive.
Right.
I think one of the cool things happening here is that you see a lot of energy around what you're doing, and that's really exciting. So I just want you to take that in for a second. It's like you've got a room full of people excited about what you're talking about.
Right.
So it's the real deal.
Yeah,
I just want to express that first.
I
And
appreciate that.
secondly, I want to ask, like, what's your vision for your role? Because that's something I'm not sure of. Moving forward, are you wanting to stay a physician, or do you want to be a CEO? Do you want to give this plan away to other people to start their own, or are you wanting to start multiple locations? I think that would help us, you know, get behind you more too, knowing what you want to do with the future.
That's a good question. Right now, I'm kind of letting my own panel fall by attrition. I'm not bringing anybody new in, and over time, you know, people move away, they stop for various reasons. I'd like to keep doing medicine part-time, but I'd really like, at least regionally, to build this system.
Cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that requires diminishing returns, which is the hard part, but we'll
Right.
talk more about that, yeah.
yeah. I bet you've got good advice for me there, too. Oh,
Go ahead, Cody.
Two different questions, really. One, what's your enrollment process for a new client? Is it all online? Can you go in, fill out a form, put in a credit card, and you're up and running? Because if you have I think in terms of like ClickFunnels, it sounds really unpersonal, but the ability to actually drive traffic to a path where people self-enroll, once you have that established, you can do some really interesting with Facebook and Instagram marketing. Because any life change that triggers an opportunity to have this conversation, whether someone's newly unemployed or whatever, these are targets that you can target in any county, any city, and send them through your path. And then it's a matter of developing a 90-second video that explains your story and see what kind of conversion rate. Because one data point you should be collecting is what your what is the lifetime value of a client. So is the average enrollee in the system for 27 months times $70 equals blank. And then once you know that number, and then you know how much you can spend per new customer acquisition cost, and then he can build a system and quickly, A/B test it and get to profitability. That's kind of a lot there. And then the other question, I'm really interested on how you see communities, how you want to see communities, because that's how you're going to really scale this thing. If you're a physician that's sick of the system, and I was married to one, how do you recruit one, and what do they get? Well, how can you bolt the whole system? How can you build that infrastructure out for somebody that wants to move to or stay in Monette or Lamar? And what is the package that you create, including maybe that funnel to get a new physician going in that community?
Right. And are you asking for an answer to that question?
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's a good question. So, the system that a physician needs to move into, so you need to have the sales process in place, you need to have the system in place. A lot of the system revolves around the electronic medical record. You have to have your staff hired, you have to have the facility and the supplies, and then you have to have a business plan form that is, we're finding more and more is driven by us as opposed to by them. If we're going to just sell them something, if we're going to sell them the site and the model and everything, we can just plug them in and make it go. But if we are business partners of profit sharing, we're realizing that it's requiring us to drive it a lot more than we anticipated. We can't just have a motivated person plug them in, give them a plan, have it work. I think because they're not physician salesmen, I think so. I think that's the issue there. A lot of people that have come into it appear motivated and eager, but when it really comes down to it, when you're in the grind of patient acquisition in particular, the physicians get kind of dismayed. And I think part of it's just because of how much they've paid to get their education and everything. They're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm making $2,500 a month right now. Like, this is not right, So, yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I'm just curious that on scaling this business beyond your pre-physician group, if you're, what is the pitch to number 4, number 5? How do you see the community? Or what do you supply as a system, as a brand for the new physician? And then is that relationship profit sharing driven, or are they an employee of the company?
So what we've done so far, so we've actually got our 4th physician coming on in next year sometime. And so what we're doing is we're supplying the facility, the staff, the marketing, and they are paid based on how many patients that they have enrolled. And so we have a minimum salary for them that goes up based on how many patients they have. They have no ownership in the company, but they have a very comfortable salary once they're busy. So we're trying to keep them motivated to at least engage in the network marketing side, going to chamber events, maybe joining a BNI chapter, joining a service group, and doing what they can that doesn't involve active pitching. And then they make more as their panel grows. So we're supplying all the system, and we just plug in the doctor.
How many patients is a full panel? What's a round number?
600 to 700.
Okay.
Yeah, 600 to 700. Yeah, and then once they reach that point, the anticipation is that they'll be having a salary similar to other primary care physicians in the area. I will say that the work as a primary care physician in this model is immensely more gratifying. You're not churning through so many patients an hour. You have wonderful relationships with your patients. There's an hour-long established care visit, and all your follow-ups are 30 minutes. And so you have time to really practice medicine and really get to know people. And so if you have a passionate doctor who loves taking care of people, voila, they're happy.
I guess what I'm hearing a couple of things. One is, all the doctors that I know that are friends, their enjoyment is taking care of people.
Right.
Their enjoyment isn't out recruiting business.
Right.
The skill for people that are good at that, they don't need to be a doctor.
Yeah.
So, but I'm hearing you're wanting doctors to go out and recruit.
Well, maybe I've got too much of it in because the early doctors, we put a lot of force on. Right now we're wanting them to be present in the community, and maybe even now we're asking too much.
I don't know, I assume you have a business plan in writing, not in your head.
Yes.
Where you are and where you're going.
Yes.
That's a picture to show somebody, here's what we need in recruitment. You got great ideas today on where to go recruit for that person. The concern I would have is, can you take on number of new clients at one time?
It's a good question, and it depends on where the doctor is in their cycle. So our goal moving forward would be able to bring on 25 to 30 new patients a month for each new physician. And that's very doable. Now, if you have a larger business, let's say you get one that's above that 50, you're going to combine it with a partially self-funded plan or something. If you bring on 100 patients at once, it's going to be a lot. We can do it, but you won't want to bring on multiple of those businesses at once by any stretch. Early on, there's 8 hours in the day. You probably wouldn't want more than 3 or 4 new patients a day in that early process because there's going to be a lot of visits early on.
Well, they've got to have a good relationship with you. It's that first meeting and what you're providing and them understanding that, because if they had a bad experience, you'd be lost.
Right.
They're going to tell their friends it was not a good experience.
Right. And when you got a big group, you kind of triage those, bringing in first that have active medical conditions, and then bring on the rest.
Go ahead.
The assumption is you make these connections through businesses and business owners for the large groups of people. I'm thinking direct to consumer. I wouldn't know how to sit down and look at what I have currently and then compare it to the alternative of going with what you have. I wouldn't know how to do that. I'd look at the cost and then I'd have to figure out what's available to me from my employers, and it becomes confusing. And is there a way that you could build an online education portal where I could go and learn through videos of how to analyze what I have now, how to analyze that against what you offer? Then I could as a consumer, make my own decision if that's the route I want to go. Then if you have that video library of content where you taught me how to make that decision, that's infinitely scalable. You don't have to have direct. So then you can tell a physician, we have an infinitely scalable educational resource online. We will plug you into it, and the patients will come through social media targeting and educating the consumer instead of having to make all of these direct connections in local markets all over. It seems like that might be easier.
That sounds really good. That combined with the online enrollment
That's
process.
the thing. I don't know how to go about deciding if I want to do
Right.
the program or not.
Because right now we've been giving people pieces of paper, and you're right. We need to.
You can have a full-time director of sales marketing that is also a licensed insurance agent, and that person can subsidize their income by selling the high deductible plan that is the piece that belongs with your piece.
Right.
And so you can probably get somebody for 50 cents on the dollar and let them make commissions on that other piece, and you're off and running.
Right.
Yeah.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Well, there's one thing that I think kind of glares for most people when you say high deductible plan. What happens when you do have the heart attack or you need the hospital thing? Is there anybody from Midmo or Arvis that's here? The reason why I ask that is because with free market physician, you say, hey, it's $70 a month for service, but it's $30 a month to go into an HSA, a health savings account, which is like a health savings Roth IRA, where it's specifically designed to bridge that gap for a high deductible plan. So then you have a solution for families, right, that might have kids or might have bigger issues. They have the resources and funds for that. Then when you talk to larger companies or businesses that are worried about how do I analyze this because this is covering the group and that risk, you're able to partner with like an Arvest or a Midmo or somebody that can come in and help them set that up too. So that way you're attacking both sides of the gap. Right? Or SMB or Midmo or sorry.
Awesome.
I'm new to the area.
It sounds like there's a lot of excitement, and I know there's a lot more questions that can be had, but we do need to move on to our next presenter. We want to be time sensitive for everyone, and so we want to let's give Dr. Joseph Shepherd a big hand. I want to encourage you, please do not just speak here today. Please, if you have more questions or if you have some feedback, please seek him out after the meeting today, and I can tell you he is more than willing to set up a cup of coffee or lunch with you. Karen is also here to answer some questions. Please do so after the meeting. But without further ado, I want to introduce our next speaker today. Many of you have come to know him, and you've gotten to see him in action with what he does and what he's passionate about, which is the recycling-based industry. But it's a very unique recycling-based industry. He likes to tell people, if you've got computers laying around, I want them. If you have printers, or in some cases, he has gotten fax machines or even large, huge scanning devices, no matter how old, he wants that. He's been a Joplin Chamber member for the last couple of years. We've been very blessed with my community being a part of his life and his business since the startup. Please welcome today, Josh Gilmore with No Earthly Cover.
ever sweated so much because it's so cold at once. But yes, my name is Josh Gilmore with No Worth Recovery. My location of my business is at 430 South High, Unit C, just right down the road, right next to the lawnmower repair shop. With that, if your electronic plugs in or takes batteries, we can help keep that out of landfills and put that in our stream to recycle properly. I need to click. Just back up a little bit about myself. I talk loud enough. I really don't need this thing.
It's on. You have to speak directly into the top. It is on. You have to speak directly into the top.
Okay, here we go.
There you go.
Do what we can do. So I grew up in Goodman, very ornery young man, constantly in trouble, and this project here is my way of giving back to the community and hopefully much more. Like I said, if it plugs in or takes batteries, we can offer to recycle it and keep it out of landfills. Excuse me. And so we, if it's a circuit board, we have it's graded by the commodity of the precious metal and the metal that can be reduced. Excuse me. Don't know, guys. This is gonna be a tough one today. But we buy all circuit boards, regardless of what type it is, and then if it's a whole unit, there's still a different scrap value, just like you take your laundromat, or excuse me, oh my goodness, your washer and dryer to your scrap metal, and as well with all your information. You know, guys, I'm having a hard time with this.
You're doing great. You're fine. You're doing great.
So a lot of you guys with your businesses, you have a lot of sensitive information, just like Dr. K and Joseph here. And as that with their information, they don't need it leaked out, and your financials or any other thing that you have to be important to you. I think I'll just stick to reading the description and go on, guys.
Go for it. You're fine.
Destroying this. So, like I said, you have a pile of old hard drives and no longer useful, and this sensitive information on those hard drives or cell phones exposing your data and so on. With that, we can help keep that out, destroyed and make sure that I'm having a good time, guys. Excuse me. Electronic waste and scrap metal is the lowest form of value of commodity because it has the end of. I can't even talk, guys.
You're good.
You're doing great, man.
You got it.
Everybody's with you here.
And it's not.
What type of metals? So what here are we seeing, and what type of metals are you extracting?
I'm not extracting the metal, so to say myself. Excuse me. With the circuit boards, it's the end of its life, and it's out of date, so it's no longer useful. It's no more value left. So it's really hard to deal with it. It's in large volumes. It's very intensive labor, especially if you are starting out in my situation. They have a lot of, big companies that have big machines that hammer and pulverize this stuff and separate the material itself. But as myself, what I like to do, I'm able to, there's companies out there that will charge you for doing this service, and I see a lot more value into it, and I can reduce that cost for you guys. With that, it is very labor intensive because it is at the lowest value it is. You have to deal with large bulks of material. Your typical standard motherboard has about 0.5 of gold value in it. But once you start talking about tons and tons of it, as we do throw away every year, average person throws away about 40 pounds of electronics waste every year. So you guys do the math, how many's in here and how much can go, I keep out of landfills just by bringing it to me. With that, right now, I don't have the heavy machinery, heavy equipment. I'm doing it all by manual. Basically, a power drill is the main source of my recycling. Every screw has to be taken out. I had one employee the other day just trying to crack everything open with a hammer, and that's not how you do it. With that, it's very labor intensive. You got to pry these things apart with screwdrivers and so on, and it's very, it'll develop some carpal tunnel quick. With that, there's also, my side is the logistics. I offer free pickups, and I take my material into my buyers. Just the fact I know what I'm turning into them, and there's no mix-up in between there. As a small company, every dollar counts. Something can happen to that load in between. I've heard lots of horror stories. And this is a precious metal commodity, and not everybody's going to be honest with you. With this, there's, as you guys, probably most of you guys never heard the term e-waste. So So there's nobody here teaching me what I'm doing. I'm actually learning everything as I go. I've made, several mistakes, and I've seen how I can improve what kind of material I'm turning in, how I can sort it better, or some other component. With that, it's very labor intensive. Just this week alone, since the pandemic's ending and everybody's cleaning up and be able to get things out of their building, the Carthage High School, or the schools district, has used my service, which I'm very grateful, but they have 24 pallets for me to shove into my little shop. And on top of that, Neosho Recycling Center just had an event last weekend, Friday and Saturday, and they have another 24 pallets for me to put in my shop. So my business is going to be max capacity for the rest of the couple weeks here. Hopefully I can get it cleared out. So it's very labor intensive. With that, the more space you have, the more organized you can be, the better you can be at recycling, the more value you can pull out of this stuff. For instance, ABS plastic is one of my major things that I do have to throw into landfills just because there's not a market for it. There's companies like in St. Louis that, yeah, we could take your ABS plastic, but we need a whole trailer load before we come. I don't have that space. I don't have a trailer to put it in for them to come and get that. So that's one of the main situations I have, and one of the things in the future I plan on facing, as an e-waste company and being new, there's always places for me to improve, and there's places to easy improvement as well. But that's number one. But ABS plastic's like the only one thing that I really have a problem with throwing away. Now this is the best news I could give you guys. I actually was able to qualify and got granted money this year from Region M. Their program they have through the landfill. Every ton of waste that goes to the landfill, they're granted $2 and to go to the other recycling companies that helps things out of the landfill. This machine here is a turnkey PCB e-waste processor. Basically, whenever I first get this machine, I won't have two of those. That's the hammer mill and this is the shaker table. With the hammer mill, it'll pulverize all the material into like a talcum powder consistency and liberates all the metals and stuff from the plastic. With that, it's just like you're out in the gold mining field, and that's what I'm doing. I'm building an urban gold mining business here in town, basically, so to say. But once it's pulverized, it'll come down to this 4x8 shaker table that I was just granted money for. It's my dream machine, and this is what's going to fuel the next few stages of my operation. What got me into this is watching one YouTube video my dad showed me of a gentleman leaching the gold plating off the gold of the fingers of a ram stick of the motherboard. I don't know if you know what a lot of that is, but that got me thinking and interested how somebody can take a commodity, an instrument like a computer, break it down, put it back into a solution, and drop it back out to a crude commodity to be reused. That just absolutely fascinates me, and that's where I want to be. And 20 years was my big dream to have an actual refinery, but I do know how to do it, and I have done it. But in that, I've learned that you handle corrosive, hazardous waste. Even though you get your gold out, your precious metal, that solution still has heavy metals and poisonous metals in there. So I backed off that, and I did learn that there's still a need for collection. There's not a company around here that does what I do. Most of the companies, they want to charge you to come and pick up your electronics waste. Whenever I know half these schools and stuff throw away computers that can be reused to commodities, and that's what we do. I have Josh Shackles now partnered up with me, and he's helping me amp the computers and resell them to community at an IT level, which that's not my field. I'm more in the scrap industry. Most of the stuff that I get, I couldn't tell you half of what it does, but I can tell you the scrap value. But with this machine here, I'm looking forward to having it by the time this year and really be able to turn the tables of my contacts buying my material, but me buying their material in the finished process and capturing all the precious metals and all the metals out of it and reselling it to a refinery and getting the maximum profit of what we're doing here in Joplin, which I think is a very right where Joplin needs to be, considering everybody's talking about new infrastructure. ABS plastic and other plastic is the leading volume of waste being in the landfills, but electronic waste is probably more hazardous because about every known element is put on a motherboard to make it work and communicate to us. With that, I'm just hoping we can create, not only help keep the landfills empty of all this electronic waste, but we can also
recording on Facebook Live, so we do need you to use the mic if you're asking a question, or else they won't be able to hear you.
What's your number one biggest challenge, Josh?
Having the knowledge, but not having the capital to do what you want to do right now.
So you're needing funding so you can continue to expand and increase what you really want to do. Is that right?
Yes, you know, it's starting out with somebody I'm giving, I don't, and yeah, just the funding, you know, capital to buy the heavy machinery to take a lot of labor intensive work out of it and be able to process the material a lot quicker at a more industrial scale level. I guess that would be it, the property. And you know, something else everybody's going through is finding good help, you know, good hired hand that's really interested and passionate about what I do. You know, like my old boss, Robert Applegard, bless his heart, hope he's hearing me and listening to this, but he told me that nobody's ever going to care as much as you do. You know, I was really aggravated that the other employees weren't working as hard as I was or something, and he's like, nobody's ever going to care as much as you do. And that really stuck to me, and I take it to the heart. And, yeah, that's my biggest challenge is capital, and then just finding some good help. I know what I can do in my shop and how much value I bring to my community. If I could find somebody that could put that that effort with me, it could really help me. And this is ultimately what I want to be doing is out here communicating, even though I didn't squash this one. But this is ultimately where I want to be is communicating and educating people about electronic waste, because bottom line, nobody knows what the term e-waste is. I didn't know what it was 5 years ago, you know. But now I eat and sleep it, and that's all I want to do.
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
It seems like a pretty good partnership for you. I'm curious if you've reached out to any of the local tribes. I'm Eastern Shawnee. All of the local 9 tribes have e-waste drives every single year. We have our own recycling facilities on tribal grounds. Seems like a really, really good fit. Tribes also get a good bit of grant money, and so they're constantly turning over old technologies and do create a large amount of e-waste, which is why it's something they look at. They seem to be more focused on sustainability than most other organizations. And so it seems like if you're needing capital and you're wanting to grow, tribes have capital. Tribes are always looking for partners to invest in. And this is right in the sweet spot because it's profitable and it focuses on sustainability. So it might be worth your time looking at any of those. Happy to make connections there.
I would love to meet anybody that's interested in and just see what they can offer me, and if it makes sense to me and feel comfortable, you know, I'd love to proceed. One thing I've done during the pandemic was I was able to register my business through DNR, which they have adopted the R2 certification plans, which now you can go there and find my business. They're listed, which is awesome. I'm not R2 certified. It's a lot of income. Another thing, capital, it's $10K plus to get actually the certification. But what it says is I am R2 compliant. But with that, Region M is able to partner up with me and use me in the e-waste collection events, just like you're talking about, which is awesome and a big achievement this year, last year, 2020. But yeah, I would love to, talk to the other tribes, and then I've had them reach out to me before about the e-waste collection. And it was actually, they were talking about hosting it this weekend, but they just didn't have the funding, from what I heard, to do it. So
Intertribal Council in Miami would be the best spot, because that's all 9 local tribes together. It's almost like a tribal chamber. I would reach out to that office and go to one of their meetings, because you'll interact with all 9 local chiefs at one time.
could you just message me that name later? I'd appreciate it.
Do I need to speak into the mic? So Josh, you mentioned the ABS plastics going into the landfill, and of course that's, I didn't want that.
No, I don't either.
None of us do, but aside from it going into the landfill, you have to think about the cost of reduction if they take a smaller load, because a lot of times when there's freight coming through here, and we're very fortunate to live on some highways, that connect different areas of the state, they're needing to fill up a load, so maybe they're picking up from a distribution center somewhere, but they're like, oh man, we've got room for 8 pallets, and so maybe they can take a partial load if we just talk to the right people and coordinate that.
Sure.
I would look at seeing what else they can take besides the ABS.
Sure, yeah,
You'd save money in the long run.
That makes sense.
Gain revenue for it.
Well, I never even thought about getting paid for this stuff, Like I said, I hate the thought of throw all this stuff away. That's one thing I don't keep track of, is how much plastic. I do throw away. Beginning of the pandemic, of the New Year's resolution was, I wanted to see how much I did throw away. But when that pandemic hit, everything went crazy, and I stopped measuring away how much I threw away. But yeah, I'll definitely reach back out to those and other people.
First of all, I think you did a great job speaking.
Oh,
I know
please.
it can be nerve-wracking talking in front of people that you don't know, so props for that, because it takes a lot of guts. I think education is a huge piece that you could, there's a lot of potential. It's educating on that this exists, maybe like putting it on a social media platform, educating the community on what you do and how you can help the environment, because we live in a world right now where people want to recycle, right? I know I was getting rid of some old cell phones, and the only place I could think about was taking them to Best Buy and putting them in the little drop box. I had no idea
Sure,
something
great
like
place.
this existed. So if you can educate the community and utilize social media and word of mouth, I think that could help spread your cause, and with that could create a domino effect on how you can move forward and pivot, but it starts with education.
I do. That's ultimately where I want to be, and I could. It was kind of my marketing plan was get with the Web City Chamber, join more chamber events this year and stuff. But once again, it comes back to employment. I need help to be me at the shop while I'm out there teaching and training, and that's what's stopping me from networking and marketing. So ultimately, I think that'd be the number one problem is dope, like any other company in the industry right now. But other than that, if I had the equipment, I'd just have to feed it myself.
Josh, have you got a chance to talk to workforce development about getting help in your company?
No, I'm not sure.
You might
much
connect
about it.
with them. I know when I ran the disaster relief center at Johnson Family, they came to us and said, hey, we have people who need work, and we pay them, but they just need a place to go work.
And that's
So
one of
you
the
might-
things.
They're right there in the back. We're right here.
Oh,
I've
they're
got
right.
cards. I've got cards. I'm gonna be talking to everybody in a little bit.
And that was kind of one of my challenges also is, we're, like I said, we're in the lowest value of the commodity that's there. Beginning of the pandemic, scrap metal, beginning it was like $70 a ton, which is pretty low for us, for cyclers, scrappers, or anybody that's doing in tonnage weight. But when that pandemic hit, it all went $30 a ton. Right now it's awesome, it's like $130 right now. Scrap is just full of metal. I'm afraid they're going to drop the price because they're so full of metal. But it's such a high demand because everything's backed up right now. Let's keep the prices up. But with that being said, it's hard to know what I can pay somebody and so on and so on, and still, go on with the project, what we're working on towards. But yeah, I would love to talk to you and see more, learn more.
Absolutely.
There's always lots more to talk about, lots of plenty.
What are the qualifications for employment? Any kind of background checks? Because if people are giving you items with sensitive information, or that maybe, did have sensitive information on it, that could be still stored on there somewhere. Just giving people, the community, the peace of mind of knowing that when you give this to me, your information is not getting out. So
Sure.
that might be something to advertise, that I'm checking these people out that are, dismantling your computer or whatever.
And I agree, yeah, and that's just something, I don't know. It's one of those things I don't know about and don't know where to go to get it. Yeah.
A lot of stuff.
Yes.
Beth?
Another thing you might consider is checking with cities to see if you could partner with them. So like, Joplin has curbside recycling, but
that was one of the things with me getting registered to the DNR. Then at that point, they were able to use me then. They just needed some credentials, you know, showing that I'm reliable and responsible with electronic waste. But yeah, I do. I currently handle the Osho Recycling Center stuff. I just picked them up the last 6 months, as well as Carthage Recycling Center and McDonald counties. And it's been nice. It's exactly where I wanted to be, you know, because I knew that it would help out what I'm doing. Like you said, the logistics part of collecting.
Well, I appreciate you coming and getting a TV that I can move from house to house to house. Garage.
And those TVs are the nightmare of electronic business. The old cathode tubes, the CRT TVs that we all grew up watching before flat screen TVs. They got an average of 5 pounds of lead in each glass, and along with phosphorus and other, you know, there is some precious metals as well as some copper. But yeah, the hazardous metals comes out of that. That's one thing I do have to charge to take in. Out of the few things.
Well worth it.
One of the things that Toby and I were talking about was the Joplin, it's now the community workshops, which is just down around the corner from you. They provide great labor force. They're individuals that are quality, they're loyal, and they're hardworking right around the corner. So definitely check in with them to find out how you can partner with them, because they would provide a labor force for you.
Okay.
Awesome. Let's give Josh Gilmore a great hand. Thank you. All right, we've got some giveaways. So as always, we have some 1 million cup swag. So we have a really beautiful coffee mug, and we've also got the mini tumblers. So we're going to go ahead and get your tickets ready if you have a ticket. First ticket is 430-2106. 430-2106. Karen, all right. Here you go.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. And for a mini tumbler, we have 430-2107. 430-2107. 2107. Going once. 07 twice. All right, here we go. Taylor's hoping for that 8 next. Let's see. You're going to hate this. 430-2099. Oh, here we go, Patty. Sorry, Taylor, it wasn't an 8, it was a 9. There we go. You're welcome. All right, we've got 2 more here this morning. For another mini tumbler, we have 430-2109. 430-2109. All righty, here we go.
Right around.
One more. Right around it. He's like, where's that 8 at? Here we go. Let me see if I can pull an 8. Go for that 8. 430-2104. 430-2104. Here we go. All right. Awesome. All right, so again, once again, just a few quick announcements. We want to thank all of our sponsors, the Joplin Area Chamber of Commerce, Joplin Public Library, also the Advanced Technology and Training Center, Granny Schaefer's Restaurant, and Southwest Missouri Bank. Thank you so much also for our community for being here today. Once again, we will be meeting virtually next week. So log on to Facebook, Joplin 1 Million Cups, or 1 Million Cups Joplin, 1 Million Cups Joplin, log on. We will be broadcasting live. We're going to be taking your feedback just like we would live in the room, interacting via the comments. Please make sure and get on, interact with the community. We do have 2 great presenters next week. We're very excited about who's presenting next week. Do we know yet?
I don't know, off the top of my head.
I don't either. I apologize. Does
It'll be
anyone
posted on
know?
social
We'll
media.
Okay, be watching the community page, and we'll let you know who's going to be presenting. If you would like to present, there's a QR code scanner at the registration desk. Just scan that code, it'll take you to the registration link. Once again, thank you for being here. Please don't run off. Have some coffee. Let's get caffeinated.